Welcome to Module 5 of the QuickBooks Accounting Software training. In this module, we're going to look at transaction posting, and our main focus is going to be on expenses. My name is Lilian Katiso. I'm a financial management consultant and QuickBooks trainer. In Module 5, we're going to look at transaction posting. This will include purchasing the stock, so which means how to raise a purchase order. We're also going to look at how to receive stock in your system, how to pay the bills, the invoices or the bills that you've been given, how to post those bills in the system, and how to make payment of the bill. Now, to make it practical, I'm going to share my QuickBooks screen so that you can see how to go step by step on each of these different options. Okay. I'm now sharing my QuickBooks screen. I believe you're very now familiar with the homepage where we have the map of the different processes of QuickBooks, okay? So just as a recap, I'm going to show us how the flow of the transactions go. So what we're going to look at is on the expenses side of things. So we're going to look at purchase orders, okay? Then we're going to look at how to receive stock into your system with bill or without bill. We're going to see how to enter the bills into the system, but also we're going to look at how to enter bills that are not stock related, okay? And how to make payments of these bills. And as I mentioned in the earlier module, if you want to have expenses, to put in expenses that have not been posted in the system before as a bill, it's a transaction that you're paying in cash. There was no bill that was raised previously, then you need to use this function called write checks, okay? So we're going to go through some of those examples so that you have an idea on how the process runs. So starting out, we're going to start with posting a purchase order. So a purchase order is your intention to buy from a particular supplier. So you go to this particular icon, you click on purchase order. Okay, so we're going to buy some items. Remember, the sample file that we are using is an auto shop. So the items we're buying is related to that. So we're going to order some supplies. We're going to order from a supplier called Bricks. Let's order something from Bricks. Okay, so as you add suppliers in the system keep them, and so you have them retained in the system. So if you want to add a new supplier, you just click on add new, and then the supplier is added in the system. So you're going to buy from a supplier called Break. And what you're going to buy from him, we can choose which class we want to allocate this particular expenditure or this particular purchase, okay? Now, in this case, we can say it is parts related. We're going to buy different parts. So it's on the parts segment of the business. And we are going to buy on this date, 31st of December, 2022, okay? And the purchase order number, we're going to use the incremental purchase order number, which is number 51. So the items from the item column, you get a drop down there to pick the items that have already been set up in the system so that you can pick whichever item you want to buy. In case the item that you want to buy, you've not bought it before and it's a new item, then of course you just scroll up and then you add new, and it will give you the step-by-step like we did previously of adding the item. Is it a stock part? Is it a non-stock part? Or is it part of another thing that you're going to assemble? Now, in this case, we want to buy brake pads. Okay, so from the brakes, we're going to buy brake pads. Which one do I want to buy? This one, 19D. If you notice, the description is pre-populated because at the time of setting up the items, you set up the description, you put the description of the item, so it comes pre-populated. Now I have to determine the quantity which I want to buy. So let's say I want to buy 2 pieces of it, 2 packages of it. Okay. So it does the quantity times the rate per unit, and then it multiplies that to give you the total purchase, the total amount that you want to purchase. Okay. Of course, you have to, if you want to assign this to a particular customer, then you choose the customer from the customer list or the job so that you can assign it to that particular customer if you want to bill it to the customer later on. But if you're just buying stock to restock your stock that has gone low, you're replenishing stock, then you don't have to assign a particular name, but you only assign a name if you're charging it on a particular customer. Okay. Then of course you choose the tax rate where applicable. There's a drop down there as well. We in the previous session, we set up the different tax rates. So you choose what tax rate applies to that particular item you're buying. In this case, it's standard rated, 17.5% in this particular company. And then if it is something that is 0 rated, you choose 0 rated. If it's out of scope of VAT, you also have an option for that as well. Okay, so you choose the class you want it to go to, and then it gives you the amount. Then we can add another item. I still want to buy more brakes. This time I want to buy front brakes. Okay, so front brakes. You see now the items are organized by different types. So all the air conditioning related type items, they are listed there. Body items, they are listed there in their different stock part numbers, and the brakes are also listed there. So which means if I put in brakes, I can easily just see from the drop down of the brakes that I want, and I can see the description. I want front brakes, and I put it in there. And I want to buy how many pieces? I also want to buy 2 of these. Okay. So that is how you proceed on and create your purchase order. Once you're done with the purchase order, what you do is you can save and close to move on to another item. If you click save and new, what happens is it clicks the save and it brings you another window to raise another purchase order. In this case, we're going to save and close because now we have posted a purchase order. Okay, there we go. The purchase order has been posted. Now we go and now we want to receive stock. Okay, you can choose receive stock with bill or receive stock without bill. In this case, let us do receive stock without bill. And so who do we want to receive the stock from? I want to receive the stock from brakes. Okay, for what you've just ordered. Now it tells you open purchase orders exist for this supplier. Do you want to receive against one or more stock orders? I'm going to opt for yes. And it gives me a list of the stock orders that are still existing that haven't yet been picked. Because remember, when you issue a purchase order, you don't necessarily go and buy, because maybe you issued purchase order and something changed on that particular purchase order, or you modified something about it. So some purchase orders remain unfulfilled or undelivered. Now we're choosing purchase order number 51, the one that we've just posted, and we say okay. Now what happens? It brings the items, okay, that you had already ordered. And now here it's just alerting you that when you, at the time of purchasing, you have to be aware of the VAT codes that exist. And if there are any adjustments that you need to make, you make them accordingly. Now, so we are receiving the items, okay? So you include the item receipt number. So if it was receipt number, you give a reference number. Let's say let me just give it number 51 so that it rhymes with the purchase order. And then here the memo indicates the bill, the received items are going to follow. The bills are going to follow that later. So what you notice, I don't have to repopulate this. They pick it from where? They pick it from the purchase order that I had issued earlier. Now, what happens is, and you see in this column, it indicates the purchase order on the right-hand side. In case the items delivered were fewer than what I had ordered, it means you can adjust from this time. You ordered, let's say, 2 brakes, but they brought for you only 1 brake. So you have an opportunity to actually modify what has been delivered compared to what you had ordered previously, okay? So it means now you're changing your order. What has been delivered is changing from what you had initially put out as a purchase order. Then you save and close to receive the item, okay? Now, we have received the item. We go to the next thing. Now we want to receive the bill against this particular item, okay? So I choose that, and then I choose the name of the supplier, break, and then it is showing the items that we received here, and these items, we received them without bill, okay? So now you have an option to choose use item receipt date as the bill date, or you can choose another date that is different, okay? So I assume the the receipt of item date is the date that I want to use, and then I tick, this is the one that I want to receive, and I say, okay. So what happens now, I have got this bill, okay? I've got this bill from Breaks Harvey. So you've seen the whole process from the purchase order to receiving the items. Now I'm receiving the bill from them. Now, when you receive the bill, then you check, okay, the date is fine, the reference number is okay, and then the amount, you check it is fine. The terms, this is where you say, depending on what you agreed with the supplier, are you paying on receipt? Are you paying on net 30? Net 30 means they give you 30 days credit period to pay. If there are other terms, discount date, you can indicate those particular ones, okay? Then here, you can indicate items received or bill received against a purchase order. Next, purchase order, then you put your purchase order abbreviation, purchase order number 51. So you receive these items, it populates this as the final bill. And therefore now you're going to have Breaks by Harvey, okay, having a bill posted in your system, okay? So you're going to have your stock is now going to increase once you post this bill, okay? Your stock, of course, is going to increase by that amount, but also your accounts payable is going to increase by that amount, okay? So you have a liability that you're going to pay to Breaks Harvey. You say 7 close. Okay, now it's telling you this transaction is linked to others. Are you sure you want to change it? Yes, because we changed the purchase order that initially we had offered. Okay, so the terms also, remember it was 15 days. I've just changed it to net 30. In case you have negotiations with your customer, with your supplier, and they have changed it, the point when they've given you an extended payment period, you can adjust that. Now, what happens is it can be an one-off negotiation. That means that I would say no to changing the new terms. But if it is going forward, they have changed from net 15 to net 30, then you say yes. So then you continue getting the new rate. Okay. So now we have gone up to there. Now we want to pay the bill to Breaks by Hickey. So I'll click on pay bills. Now, when you click on this window, it will show you all bills, all the outstanding bills that you have in your system, okay? So now the ones that I want to pay is the one that I'm going to do what? That I'm going to pay. In this case, I have chosen to show all bills. You have an option of choosing, you want bills up to a particular date only. You don't want to maybe pay some other bills at a particular date. So you can choose the date there on the bills that you want to see. But in this case, I want to see all bills. QuickBooks allows you to also choose a filter. Okay, I don't want to see all the suppliers because right now it's showing me all the suppliers. I can choose, I only want to see only Breaks by Hickey. And then it will only show me bills that are outstanding for this particular supplier. Now you're seeing this supplier has other bills that are pending. It has previous bills that were issued out and they were pending. And we have this particular one. Remember, I'd put net 30. So net 30 shows it is going to be due when? It's going to be due by 30th of January, 2023, because it's 30 days later from the time of invoicing. But because we want to be good records with Breaks by Harvey, we want to pay one of the older bills, or maybe you just want to down pay on your account, okay? Now, QuickBooks allows you to choose how much you want to pay on which particular invoice. Assume you want to pay the oldest one in the system. So this is the oldest one, and you can choose to pay the whole amount, or you can decide that the amount you want to pay is only $3,000. If you want to pay only $3,000, you put here on this column amount to pay, you choose the amount to pay, and you feed in the amount to pay, and it will only pay that one. Now, once you feed in the amount to pay, you come down, and if you want to get a clarification of what was purchased in this particular bill, you can click on Go to Bill so that you see the details therein in that bill. So if I click Go to Bill, it will take me back to the bill for me to check, okay, what is it that we bought and all those details that I wanted to see in the previous bill. Okay, I'm going to close this so that I go back to here on the pay bill, on the pay window. If there's a discount that had been put, of course, you set the discount terms. If there was credit that the supplier had given you, you can offset the payables with the credit that was set. Now we have to choose which date are we making this payment. So let's say I'm making this payment on 31st of December. Okay. This is a practice file. And so the data that we are using is for 2022. So you choose the mode of payment as well. You want to pay by cash, you want to pay by check, you want to pay by Visa, how do you want to pay it, okay? So in this case, I'm going to choose check. Now, if you choose check, as in Uganda, most of us have to assign a check number because we don't print checks from QuickBooks. Those who print checks from QuickBooks will choose to be printed. Those of us who have to assign check numbers because you're writing the checks manually and then feeding in the system, you choose assign check number. The next thing you have to then do is to choose what account are you going to use to make this payment. In many companies, they have more than one bank account. And so you'll have a list here of different accounts that you can use to make payment. In this case, we have only one account, the current account. But in your scenario, if you have you have more than one bank account, you be conscious to choose which bank account you want the payment to come to be paid. The good thing also, it shows you the balance that is available on that account so that when you're paying the $3,000, you're seeing the ending balance of that particular. When you make that payment, what is going to be your ending balance on this particular account, okay? So you're paying knowing that you're able to meet that obligation. So that way it allows you not to pay beyond the finances or the resources that you currently have at hand. Then you click on Pay Selected Bills. And also, you can actually pay multiple bills, okay? Let me just close this and say, so maybe you want to set a bit of that and make a deposit on the second bill, and let's say we don't want to pay all of it. You see, when you click on the bill, it assumes the amount to pay is the full bill. But assuming that I want to down pay a bit of that bill, not the whole of it, I want to pay, is that $2,000. So it means I can pay more than one bill. So the system allows you to pay more than one bill. And see, now when I've increased the amount that I'm going to pay, you see the amount available is now lower. It's now $79,000 up, which is lower than the previous balance that we had before. Okay, so you can choose to pay selected bills. When you choose to pay selected bills, now it allows you to assign check numbers. You can let QuickBooks to assign check numbers for you automatically following the sequence that it is using, or you can assign the check number yourself, okay? So if you choose to assign the check numbers yourself, you feed in the check number from here. So you assume this is check number 100. I assign the check number on this, and I click OK to make payment. Okay, now here it is saying another check number has, another check already has a number 100. Now, this will happen, okay? You might find this scenario, especially if you have multiple bank accounts and it is going to check and sense that, oh, okay, this number already has been used in the system. And in that case, you have to correct. Maybe you had chosen a wrong number, and so you cancel and you go put the right number. Or if you keep the number, it means therefore you're using the same number to make another payment, or that number had been used on a different bank account, okay? So numbering is important because the check number that you put is going to appear in your bank statement at the time of reconciliation, okay? So you have to be careful that you choose a check number that you can do what? That is the correct one in terms of the records that you're keeping. Okay. So let me just that and then say okay. Okay, so we have made payment, and then it gives you a report summary that we have made payments to Breaks by Hickey, and we have made 2 bills. We have paid those 2 bills. If I want to pay more bills, I click pay more bills, and it takes me back to the bills window. If I'm done, I just click done. Okay, so let's click done because I'm done paying bills. Okay, so that is how you pay bills. Now, assuming that you have another transaction, it didn't go through the whole process of the purchase order and receiving stock, assuming you want to pay rent or something else. So click on enter bills directly, and then you choose the name of the supplier that you need to pay. If the supplier doesn't exist, you can always add a new supplier. So when you click on add new, then you put the name of the supplier who you're going to pay the rent to. So let's put Knight Frank. Okay. Knight Frank didn't have any opening balances. And if you're multi-currency, you have to make sure that you choose the currency of that particular supplier's bill, because the supplier can be billing you in different currencies. So you have to be careful that you choose the currency in which you're receiving the bill. Okay. Then you can put the payment settings that you have the customer, with the supplier. What's the account number that you use? Do you have a credit limit for that particular supplier? You put the VAT settings, okay? If the supplier is VAT registered, I mean, even if they're not VAT registered, what the type of VAT you pay to them, is it standard rated or otherwise? Then you also put other account settings that you want to be able to track. You can predetermine that the expenses that go to this particular supplier can be pre-filled, but I don't recommend that one, so that you can consciously, as an accountant, choose the particular expense account you want the bill to go to. You can also put in additional information. What is the type of supplier that you're posting? Is it a consultant, a service provider, or just another supplier for different things, okay? Once you've done all that, you say, okay. So now let's say we want Knight Frank, and we are going to have, we have invoice number from them. We have invoice number 22, okay? And they're charging us, we are paying for rent, okay? And it's due, so if you put here the terms, let's assume if I put due on receipt, you will notice that it gives me the same date of the invoice. If you choose due on receipt, the bill comes the same date of the invoice. If I choose that it's due in 15 days, it adds 15 days from the date of the particular bill that I'm posting, okay? So assume that I want it to be due on receipt. So the moment you receive this, you have to pay. Now, one thing you have to be careful to also notice is that there are 2 columns down here, okay? There are 2 tabs here. So you choose the expenses tab for it to take you to the expenses. The items tab loads for you the items that you're going to sell, okay? The items of stock that you need to sell. The expenses tab is the one that loads for you the chart of accounts. Then you pick the expense account that you want to post, okay? So in this case, I can type in the rent expense. If I know the code for the rent expense, I can just type in the code and it will still bring the same thing. So in this case, the code for rent expense is 6710. So if I didn't want to go the whole way of typing the rent, I just put 6710, and it brings for me the rent and rates account, okay? And then, of course, if I'd included that this bill includes VAT, it splits to show this net of the amount that goes as a rent expense, and then the VAT amount is also automatically calculated, okay? So that this goes to the VAT control account, and this is what goes to the expense account. Of course, remember to put the memo. So you put this is rent for the month. Oops, for the month of what's the rent for the month of, let's say, December 2022. Now, this narration, okay, goes to your cash book ledger. This memo up here goes to your cash book ledger. It's very, very important. I see some accountants ignoring to put it there. Because in terms of double entry, the upper part of this window, okay, that upper part, let me just highlight it for you to see. Okay, let me show you with a highlighter. Oops. This upper part, all the way up to where this memo is, all this upper part, okay, goes into your supplier's ledger to show that this is what is receivable, payable to them, okay? The bill part, okay? This other lower part here, expenses, goes now to the expense ledger. So it goes and debits your rent and rates with that amount. This other one goes and credits accounts payable to Knight Frank, and accounts payable is going to get $2,000. But now on this other side, you're going to have rent and rates account being debited by that amount net of VAT, and the VAT control account is also going to be debited with that amount, okay? So what I want to emphasize is this memo goes to a different ledger, and this other memo down here also is going to go to a different ledger, okay? So this one goes to your expense ledger, this memo goes to your payables ledger, which means if you leave this one blank, you're going to see an amount and a date there of money going out, but it doesn't have a narrative of why the money was being paid to Knight Frank. If you leave this one also empty here, you're going to see the rent expense amount has gone in, but it doesn't have a narrative of which month of rent you are paying. So that is very, very important. And also you can assign a class, okay? Where is the rent expense assigned to, assuming it's assigned under as office, or if you were prorating the rent to different segments of the business, then it means you have to split with using your pro rata ratio to the different segments of your business, the different classes that you want to apportion the rent expense to. In this case, let's put all of it under office, okay? Okay, so once that is done, then you save and close, and the rent, okay, yes, this is new information that I want to appear next time. I say yes. So I've posted a bill. Now, if you want to pay Knight Frank, you still come back here and click pay bills. And among all the other people also that need to be paid, you'll find that Knight Frank is also there. So I have all these different people to pay, and you see Knight Frank is there as well. Alternatively, you just type filter by and you type Knight Frank, and you get Knight Frank bill only. Or you can, if you have the whole list of the bills that are there, so let me put back all suppliers. Instead of Knight Frank only, put all suppliers. Okay, so when I put all suppliers, I can choose that I sort by due date, okay? The ones that are due on a particular date, or I can sort by the amount to pay, the amount due, or by the supplier, okay? Then it brings things by differences. So if I sort by supplier, all the payments to breaks, all the bills outstanding to breaks will be sorted like that. So it sorts by supplier, okay? If you sort by date, it means therefore, by the due date, it shows you the one that is oldest, overdue, goes up the ranking, and the ones that is a recent addition goes below the rank, okay? So that is what you do. So assuming you want to pay Knight Frank, because it says we pay when it's due, so we click on Knight Frank. And in this case, you want to pay the full bill, so we tick, and it brings the amount to be paid, the full 2,000, okay? We choose the date of payment, which in this case is 31st of December. We choose to assign a check number, the amount that is going to be the bank account where it's going to be drawn from, and then we pay selected bills. And we assign a number. Okay, and then we pay. Okay, so it shows us we have paid Knight Frank and we are not paying more bills for now. We are done. So that's how you pay bills. Now, there are instances where you've gone and you've bought something in cash, okay? And you don't have to post a bill and then come and pay bills later. So in that case, you use this check function, write checks. So write checks is for an expense that you have not entered as a bill in QuickBooks, and you want to use this one to record a cash transaction. So you click this one. So when you click on that, you choose the account in which you want to make payment from. Assuming you want to pay, if you have, a list of different bank accounts to choose from, you'll choose that. They'll be shown here. You choose the bank account that you want to pay. So before you make a payment, you can see here that there is a balance. So which means you cannot make a payment more than the amount that is available on your account. Yeah. So let's say we want to pay who? Let's say we bought QuickBooks from Zaddock Associates. So if Zaddock Associates is not in the system and you type, okay, you'll see it is not in the system. So it allows you to add a supplier. In this particular supplier is not in the supplier list, you choose the currency of this particular supplier. So assuming that we pay Zaddock Associates in another currency other than dollars, I will have to choose view more currencies, and I look for the currency and assume we pay them in Uganda shillings. Then it asks you, do you want to make this active, use it once, or you just want to make it active because you're going to keep on using that? The country which Zaddock Associates is in Uganda. Where are you, Uganda? You choose other because Uganda is not there. Okay, so you can choose quick add to just add the supplier. If you do setup means that, let me just click on it. When you do setup, it means you have to go and set the terms and conditions that you have with this particular supplier. Okay, so select the name that you want to choose. It's a supplier, of course, you click OK. Then brings you this window where you have to set who is your contact person in that place, the telephone number, all these different things. That is where setup takes you to that level of detail. Okay, so quick add just takes you to add the Zaddock Associates and you put them and you take them off. Then also here you notice up here is showing to print. It assumes that this check is going to be printed. If you want to put the check number, then you untick up here, print later. So when you untick here to print later, then it brings you the next number in the series. If you remember, we paid Knight Frank with check number 1001. It brings the next serial number in that particular cash book that you're running, and that is 1002. So it assigns the numbers incrementally because it assumes you're writing the checks also with an incremental sequence. Yeah, so that's what you also have to be observant with. So let's say we are paying Zaddock Associates, guys. Yeah, we added Zaddock Associates. That's what we did. Okay, Zaddock. Maybe I didn't click add. Okay, so let's quickly add Zaddock Associates. I thought I did add them. Then other, and then I say quick add in this case. Yes, I want to add supplier. Now remember we had activated multi-currency, which means a supplier that has a currency that is different from your own currency, then you have to put what the exchange rate is for that. So how much Uganda shillings is, yeah, for the US dollars. So assuming that I want to pay Uganda shillings, the QuickBooks monthly subscription is 120,000 Uganda shillings. The exchange rate to the dollar, I have to set up that exchange rate to the dollar. At the bottom here, at the bottom of the screen, just come to the bottom of the screen and I put what is the exchange rate of the dollar to Uganda shillings, okay? I think currently maybe it's 3,600. What does it do? So what is the rate? I'm dividing to get the dollars. You just get that. Just a minute. So I'm going to have the exchange rate is that to the dollar. I'm going to have 0.02. Okay, so it means my Uganda shillings 120,000 is equal to $33. Okay, so I put there the exchange rate here that will influence what goes, of course, into my balance sheet. Then the expense, I'll have to choose. I can put under, if we have accounting software. So for example, I want to put subscription, software subscription. Now, if it didn't exist in the chart of accounts before, then I can add it. So I can search for subscription. And if I don't have subscription, then I can add. And it's very easy. You just click on the drop down or drop up, and then you click on add new. So what do I want to add? I want to add an expense. I continue, and this particular expense is subscription. Subscription expense. Okay, so I'm adding subscription expense. And now here when I'm paying, so even in this one, the upper part here goes into your cash book. This goes into your cash book ledger. The bottom part goes to your expense ledger. So I'll put the QuickBooks monthly subscription. For which month? December 2022. Okay. Now I can copy that instead of typing all over again. I can copy that, and then I put here as well. Okay. So in this case, this expense account is going to be debited, and the bank account, this current bank account, is going to be credited with that equivalent of 120,000 Uganda shillings, which is $33. Okay. So once I'm done with that, if it was being assigned, okay, so this is our own expense, so we can't assign it to a customer. Then we choose which class is this. Let me put it again to office. And then we save and close. Okay, so that is how you post expenses. Yeah, that is how you post expenses. So you have the expenses that come as a bill that need to be paid later. You enter those as bills and follow this arrow and you pay the bill. But an expense that you hadn't posted the bill before, it is a cash transaction, you record through this window. The mistakes that many people do is to come and enter the bill here. Now, like the one for rent for Knight Frank, you post the bill here, but you come to write a check to Knight Frank to make a payment. That is a big problem that many accountants, I find them doing. Now, the implication of that would be, remember, when you enter a bill, what happens in terms of accounting, your expense account is debited and your accounts payable is credited, okay? Now, when you post using the right checks, the expense account is debited, your bank account is credited, which means, therefore, there's no point at which the accounts payable gets reduced. And that is why you'll find for this particular client I went to, they were having this payable that is like really, really, really huge. And I'm like, how come this person keeps on supplying you and you haven't paid them? This is what they were doing. They were entering bills from here, but they were making payments from what? From the right checks window, which means that was not being offset. So you have to pay using pay bills window. And that is now when you had entered the bill, you debited the expense, credited the accounts payable. When you pay the bill, now you're going to debit the accounts payable and credit the bank, okay? So that is something that we have to be very, very careful to observe, okay? So all this ends up being posted in the account, in the cash book. In QuickBooks, it's called the current account register. Okay, so the session today, we were covering posting expenses, and that is how expenses are posted in the system. Okay, so we are going to go to the next video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video, where we're going to cover module 6, which is still transaction posting, but this time we're going to focus on posting revenues. Thank you for watching.